Hey everyone, it's Andrew Nagel, Valkenine Designs, and we're back for part 4 of the start-to-finish symmetrical pendant design. We've pulled it out of the pickle pot and we're ready to clean this frame up. As you can see, we're going to have to start by clipping off the edges of the frame supports and then file that down and keep moving on with the polishing. We're going to be using our flush cutters, and we're also going to be using our flex shaft for most of the polishing today. If you don't have a flex shaft, a rotary tool will do just as fine, so long as you have the appropriate bits. So starting off, we're just going to go ahead and clip off all of those ends. Using the flush cutter, I'm going to just remove all of those tips from the frame. I really appreciate the flush cutter because it lets you get right next to the frame and get it almost, right exactly with it. Make sure you save all of your little tips and put them in a scrap bucket because you can send those back to Rio Grande or Stoller or G&S to get a scrap return for those. We're ready to start filing down this piece. We're going to be using the Dick set of files. I will leave a item number for that, a Rio Grande item number for that in the description. These are the number 2 file series from them. Look around and see what other filing types that Rio Grande has because there's a lot there and there's a lot to see. Try and use as simple of a motion as you can, either one way forward or just like one way back. Most jewelers will say one way forward, so using kind of a technique of just going forward, pulling the file up and pulling it back, putting it back down on the metal, then going forward. I sometimes do a back and forth method just because I find it's faster at removing the material, especially if I'm trying to remove a lot of the material. Going on both sides, we're going to remove all of those sharp edges from the clipped off points. You're just going to round it down and smooth it all out. We're also going to be using the files to smooth out the lines, the connectivity lines of our rectangular wire for the dangle bail. Using that same technique of just one line forward, we're going to remove a couple of layers of the silver and we're going to remove those lines from the piece. So after we polish it all out, it'll look like one singular piece of silver. The solder should have flowed between the two pieces, and so it should have fused all the way. If you didn't fuse your piece all the way, then you're going to have to go back and resolder that component. As you file it down, you'll be able to eventually see a point where it all starts to look like just one solid piece of metal, and you'll no longer see the fuse line. Try to round out those edges as well. We also need to work on removing some of those points from the inside of the curve, and for that I'm going to be using my little wooden block here. I'll leave an item number in the description for that as well. I just needed a bit more of a support to get this last bit done. Once you've got all of your edges filed up, you're ready to move on to the next part, which would be polishing. I'm also going to show you all a little Patreon exclusive of the stamping process to put my logo and also the sterling silver stamp onto this frame. Using my bench anvil, I'm going to be stamping that flat 3x1 rectangular piece of wire. Need to find my metal stamps real quick first. So now I'm going to start with the stamp for my logo. We're going to center it on the wire as best as we can, and we're going to use little taps, and we're going to rotate the stamp in kind of an up and down and a left to right motion. As you can see, that gave us a really nice clear stamp there. Give you all a little zoomed up sight of my stamp here. There we go. Yeah, you can see it's my logo just backwards, and so you stamp that into the metal, then it comes out the right way. I'm also going to be doing a sterling silver and an argentium silver stamp on here, so the .925 and the .935. Again, when you get these, you think it's going to be just one hard tamp to stamp the metal, but that's not what you want to do. You want to do light little taps and do a rotation motion, rotating, well, kind of pivoting that stamp, so that way the stamp stays in the same place, but you're moving that up and down, so that way pressure is applied equally over the different various points of the stamp. You'll see I'll do that again. I go up and down and then left and right again. And that gave us a nice clean stamp, and we're ready to move on to polishing. Now we're ready to start the polishing of the frame. We're going to be doing a series of silicone wheels as well as the 3M silicone bristle discs. We're also going to get that bail polished up nice and smooth looking. I'm also going to be doing a little rouge tutorial at the end of this for you all. We're going to start off with the extremely rough silicone wheel. I'm going to need to switch out mine because mine's looking a little short there. Then we're going to progress up through some of the silicone wheels. We're going to be doing, you know, the 220 grit. We're going to do the 400 grit. We're going to do just various different grits of the wheels, and then same with the 3M bristle discs that you see sitting to my left there. And so we're going to start with the, you know, roughest grits and then work up to the finest grits. So here we go. Now, switching this out first, you just have to take off your little screw and then put on the new pad. Once you get that screw off, you can go ahead and just switch out your wheels and screw on the new wheel, and you're ready to rock and roll. Again, this is the roughest silicone wheel that they have. I forget the specific grit. I believe it's like 80 grit or something like that. I will leave a Rio item number for all of these in the description. So as you can see, this wheel really removes material. You'll start to see it build up underneath the frame, and you can start to see the metal polish itself a little bit there. It starts to shine up as I'm hitting it with this wheel. We're going to remove all of the tool marks, and once we go over the full wheel, then we will progress on to the next one, and then the next and the next. I like to use as smooth of a motion as I can, and I just like to go over all of the spaces that I can get with these wheels first. I used to do the silicone bristle discs first, but now I use these wheels because they're really, really good for kind of like sheet metal and more flat surfaces of the silver, such as this dangle bail as you see me cleaning up right now. The wheel really removes all of those, all of the file marks from when we were filing it down earlier. Now make sure I get the whole thing there. And after we're done with this, we progress on to the next grit. Now we're moving on to the yellow 3M bristle disc. We're going to run over the whole frame. I kind of do an alternating progression of the silicone wheel and then the same grit of the bristle disc. And so we'll do the roughest bristle disc and then the roughest silicone wheel, and then, you know, progress on through those grits. So after we hit this with the yellow one, then we'll move on to the next. Now we've moved on to the blue 3M bristle disc, which is the 400 grit. After we do the 400 grit, then we'll move on to the pink. But even now, at the 400 grit, you can see the metal start to really polish up. It's starting to reflect the light a lot more, and the tool marks are, you know, pretty much gone at this point, and you're just really finishing that metal. Make sure you get each of the frames and each of the nooks and crannies, all of the parts where they intersect and come together. And then you just keep moving on the ladder. We're now at the pumice wheel. This is the pink 3M bristle disc. The pumice wheel leaves a pretty nice finish already, but we're definitely going to progress further on up the micron ladder. And we're going to be going to the 1 micron, and then we're also going to be doing a Rouge compound at the end. This is one of my first times using Rouge, and I gotta say, I'm gonna use it a lot more after seeing the finish that we get at the end of this video. We're now at the 1 micron silicone wheel. I like to do the 1 micron silicone wheel before I do the 1 micron bristle disc. I feel it just gets a better finish when I do the bristle disc after I do the wheel. You could see me hit that flat piece of metal there with the wheel, and it really polished it up. It starts to give it a really nice shine. Then we're going to move on to the ultra fine silicone wheel as well. Again, I do the bristle disc after these like super fine grits on the silicone wheels, because the bristle disc just goes through and it leaves a really nice finish after the wheels. If I do the wheel after the bristle disc, then it leaves kind of a weird finish. I also hit it with this ultra fine. This is the pink silicone wheel. I'll leave item numbers for all of these in the description. This one leaves an incredible finish, as you can see that shine there on that bale. And then after we hit it with the silicone wheel a little bit more, we're ready to progress into the final green micron, or the final 1 micron green bristle disc. Gonna finish up the back side here. Yeah, you can just really see that metal start to reflect all the light and just look really, really nice and finished there. You can also start to see a lot of buildup underneath my hands, so that's why we wear that's why we wear safety protection, is because we don't want any of those particles to get in our eyes or our lungs. And so here we are, kind of almost finishing this frame with the 1 micron. You could leave it here, but I'm going to show you all something really cool. I haven't ever really used the Rouge compound before, but that's going to be shown here in just a little bit. I just want to show you how much, how much of a finish this 1 micron gives you. You can see that bale really shimmer. I usually finish my wire wraps at this point. Same with the frames. But again, I think I'm going to start implementing this Rouge compound a lot more, because it seems to give an incredible finish when it's all said and done. Here we have one of our padded burrs ready to go with the Rouge compound. We're going to start with green, and then we're going to work with the red Rouge compound on this frame. This is my first time utilizing it, and I gotta say, I don't know why I have not been using this to polish my pieces, because it's incredible. The finish that it leaves is just mirror and perfect. The green's not as mirror as the red. I'll be showing you that here in a moment, but I gotta say the green was beyond my expectation for anything else that I've been using to polish my pieces. This is definitely something I'm going to be implementing into all of my future pendants, because it's kind of focusing on my thumb right now, but it just makes such an incredible finish for that metal. But to use this, you do need an ultrasonic cleaner, as you can see on there. As I pick up some more of the compound, it does leave it on the metal. Try not to put too much onto your burr before you're polishing with it, but you do need the ultrasonic cleaner to remove the excess compound from whatever it is that you're polishing. So we're going to throw this in the ultrasonic cleaner and see how it turns out. My GemOro ultrasonic cleaner is fantastic for the final stages of cleaning up a pendant. So I will use this to remove now the Rouge compound, but then it also just seems to, it removes oil very well. It removes all of that nasty dirt and grime really well. For the Rouge compound, you need to use the heat function to remove all of that compound and stuff. So here is the piece. I mean, as you can see, it's got a really nice finish already. This is after the green compound and all of the bristle discs. Now we're going to use the red Rouge to finalize this frame and get it going for details. What you need to do is just apply a little bit of the compound to a padded burr. You just spin your burr around and stick it down to the compound, just as if you were applying burr life to, you know, one of your bits for drilling. And so once you've applied the compound, then you just start to go over your metal, and as you can see, it's giving this an incredible finish. You can see the difference between the bale and the rest of the frame already. I mean, it's just a marvel to behold. I mean, I don't mean to get all weird about it, but I am just blown away at the fact that I was not using this to finish my pieces. I had been mentioned, or a couple of other artists had mentioned the Rouge Compound to me, and it's definitely something I'm going to use all the time now. So as you can see, it cleans everything up really nice. It gives it one nice final mirror shine. I definitely recommend doing the Rouge Compound if you're doing any sort of fabricated work as well. Again, you do need the ultrasonic cleaner to utilize this, because you've got to get the rest of that compound off. So as we go down the rest of the frame, we're making sure to get all those little nooks and crannies. We're just going to make sure that we make it look super, super nice. And so for the next part, we will be starting to build the little tree of life in our little loop there. And we'll start with the stone setting of the labradorite in the bottom of the roots as well. I hope you all enjoyed this. Again, this has been kind of a Patreon exclusive for the Rouge Compound. I'll show a little bit of that on YouTube, but you guys are getting the most information here. And so we're going to dip that into the ultrasonic cleaner again and see what it looks like finished. And holy cow, does this thing shine. I mean, it's just absolutely incredible. I'm blown away by this finish, and so this is definitely something I'm going to start implementing into all of my pieces. Again, I hope this was educational and informational for you. If you have any other video requests, please leave them in the comments or feel free to message me through Patreon. I hope you have an amazing day, and thank you again. Happy 4th of July, everyone!